£3 billion to speed up EU exit. But don't panic, they say, it's not more cash for Brussels. Now, Philip Hammond yesterday unveiled a £3 billion Brexit war chest in a warning to Brussels, says the Express, that Britain is ready to quit the EU without a deal. It's being billed as a budget day surprise in all the papers, and the Chancellor earmarked this cash for spending on tighter border controls and other measures to prepare the country for any outcome in the negotiations over leaving the bloc. There have been criticism recently of a lack of preparation, for example, things like warehouses down near Dover to store food or imports or exports or whatever. So let's get the thoughts on this one of David Scullion, Deputy Editor at Brexit Central. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Now, is this the Remain campaigning Chancellor kind of trying to play hardball with Brussels, do we think? What's going on here?
Well, I think Brexiteers have seen this with cautious optimism. You've got to remember that Philip Hammond, he's called Europhil now, but he wasn't always as such. In 2014, he was saying that the current EU terms are unacceptable and that he was ready to walk away. And this led him to be dubbed the most Eurosceptic Tory Foreign Secretary since Viscount Halifax declared war on Germany in 1939. So, you know, it is a significant victory, to be honest, because he's preparing for Brexit, and before he said he wasn't going to, but now it's $3 billion. But if you look at the detail, these are in two different payments, and one of them is a payment of $1.5 billion for 2018 to 2019. The other payment starts in 2019. We're due to leave the EU in March 2019 because the payments aren't soon enough.
We also seem to be resigned to a deficit now going till at least 2031, whereas George Osborne pledged when he introduced austerity measures that actually he'd get rid of the deficit, he said, by 2015. So we're kicking that tin can well and truly down the road.
I mean, the problem for the Conservatives is they've stopped talking about austerity, and they've stopped talking about the need to get the budget in order. But the problem with that is, if you then think that we've got money to play with, which we actually don't, then why would you not vote for a Labour Party?
I suppose the bigger concern here, though, is how it affects individuals that kind of, at the grassroots, basically, people who are about to buy their first home, people who are worried about, say, fuel bills and fuel duty. Do you think this was a positive budget overall for the country?
Tinkering around the edges, you know, this is Hammond's second budget. This is setting out his 5 years as Chancellor. And I think it's got some positive things, some positive tax cuts that freeze on fuel and alcohol, stamp duty abolished, which campaigners have been pushing for a long time to help speed up the economy and help make house buying more efficient. But generally, it seems like it's tinkering around the edges. But as I say, on the Brexit front, cautious optimism, because finally Philip Hammond has agreed to actually prepare for no-deal Brexit.
All this, though, against a backdrop of a gloomy forecast about, rather grim, in fact, about our poor productivity performance. That isn't likely, surely, to improve, is it, post-Brexit?
I mean, you know, the long-term view is that this year we've had record foreign direct investment, unemployment's at a record low, and look, exactly. The Brexit vote is a vote for 100 years. Our productivity problems have been dogging us for the last few decades or so, and it's not as a result of Brexit. But after Brexit, what we can do is cut some of these needless EU regulations, which could save about £13 billion a year. So these are structural problems in the economy, which aren't going to go away overnight. But I think Brexit will ease that if we do take the path of reducing EU regulation and getting ourselves out of the customs union and the single market.
Let me ask you on a personal level, how was it for you, David, the budget? I don't mean as a deputy editor at Brexit Central, I mean for you personally.
I mean, I did a calculator that the BBC had, and apparently it's going to save me about £8 every month. But the really annoying thing is, I am a first-time buyer, and I've just bought my home 2 months ago.
Oh, no, so you could have saved the stamp duty.
So I could have saved stamp duty, which is very frustrating, but...
Winners and losers, I suppose, but thank you very much indeed. That was David Scullion, the Deputy Editor at Brexit Central. So we've heard David's story, as well as his overview from a Brexit Central point of view. What's yours? He just missed out on that stamp duty saving.